Good morning. I hope you're all doing well. It's Wednesday, and as we look at the fourth word from the cross, we see that it's a different word from the others. In fact, the scene was quite frightening now. Darkness had fallen across the whole land. It was as if it were midnight with no stars or moon. The clapping of thunder that was heard in the distance is now on top of the hill, and from it shriek bolts of lightning. It's as, it's as if all the powers of evil had gathered on top of Golgotha and were attacking the man on the center cross. And they were. It's about 3 o'clock, and the pain, the sorrow, the dejection, the separation were all too great. Jesus hung alone on the cross, having accepted to drink this cup of sacrifice and death alone. Imagine how that must have felt. How completely awful must have been his sense of abandonment. But when he could contain it no longer, he cried out these words from the very depths of his soul. Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? This is actually an echo of Psalm 22, spoken in Jesus' native Aramaic. Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? I am scorned by everyone, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart is turned to wax. My mouth is dried up. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. These are just some of the verses from Psalm 22. Think about this for a moment. Jesus had done nothing wrong, yet was dying on a cross in humiliation. He was in total agony. And right then, it felt like God was a million miles away, like God had abandoned him. We can relate, though, can't we? I know I can. I mean, haven't you ever experienced such moments of despair? See, these aren't just Jesus' words, but humanity's. How many times have we felt alone, abandoned, hopeless? How many times have we asked God, why? Why did this happen? Where are you? Have you left me? Are you gone? But what Jesus is experiencing goes far beyond those times where we feel alone. Jesus in this moment is taking on the sins of the world. There is something in the cosmos that is shifting as he absorbs this sin of humanity and takes it into himself. This is the moment that the Apostle Paul describes by saying, he, Jesus, became a curse for us. He who knew no sin took on our sin. The interesting thing is that with these words, Jesus is declaring that this psalm, this messianic psalm, applies to him. And although it sounds so grim, the truth is, Jesus isn't saying that God has forsaken him. He's actually declaring the opposite. See, the point of Psalm 22 is not about being forsaken. After all, David wrote Psalm 22. Was David saying that God had forsaken him forever? No. David was saying that he felt like God had forsaken him, that the odds were against him, that things looked really bad right then. But that wasn't the end of the story. See, David still had confidence that God would hear his cry, because you see, the psalm ends by affirming that in spite of how it seems, God hears our cries and listens and comes to us. God didn't abandon David, and God didn't abandon Jesus. See, even though Psalm 22 starts out with the psalmist feeling forsaken and abandoned, that's not the end of the story. There's a pivot point. Jesus isn't saying that God has totally forsaken him. He's declaring the opposite. He's saying that God is with him, even in this time of seeming abandonment, and that God will never be away from him, but instead will vindicate him by raising him from the dead. And my friends, the wonderful thing is God doesn't abandon us either. Look, we live in a world where events aren't always clear and explainable. Life is unfair sometimes. We feel alone and helpless sometimes. We will feel worried and afraid sometimes. We will feel overwhelmed sometimes. And I wish I had an answer to the why this happens, other than that our world is filled with sin that affects all our lives. But the beauty of this cry of Jesus is that it gives us permission to cry out too. Because in these words, Jesus' voice is an echo of ours. His despair is ours. His struggle is ours. And in his cry, we hear and see that God truly understands our terror and separation. God understands. See, in the end, at the very moment of his darkest hour, in the very midst of his feelings of utter abandonment, God was there. God is always there. And God will always be there. In fact, listen to these words from Isaiah 49. Even if there is a mother who forgets her child, I could never, no, never forget you. Can't you see? I've carved your name in the palms of my hands. My friends, the good news, the great news, is that in our hour of darkness, we never need to feel alone, forsaken, afraid, or in doubt. Just like with Jesus, God is always there with us, no matter what, comforting us, strengthening our faith, affirming his love for us, and helping us to hang on until we make it through that darkness. And that fills me with hope. And I hope it does the same for you. Now, please stay safe. Wear your mask. Wash your hands. Keep your distance when out and get vaccinated. It's the right thing to do. It's safe, and it's what is going to get us through this pandemic and out to the other side. So enjoy today and stay hopeful. We're going to be okay. I love you. Peace.